Namaste, my name is Anna and I'm a volunteer here in Rishikesh Yogpeeth, and today we are here with Chaitanya Ji, our philosophy teacher, and we will talk about how the ancient path of yoga influence and can help us in our current time. Namaste, sir.
Namaste everyone. Namaste.
So, today we will talk about this ancient path and how can it help us? How can it help during our current time? How can it influence us?
Yes, especially in last couple of decades, since the internet and especially the smartphone, the life has become really complicated. And we are facing more problem than ever. So, let's see how the path of yoga, which is actually the asana pranayama, but ultimately it's the path of meditation. Let's go back into a little historical time. So the world ended up creating technologies that made our life easy. The life was physically very challenging. We used to do a lot of work just to live a normal life. But post Second World War, by 50s, 60s, at least most of the Western world, the life became much easier. So the car and the desk job and washing machine and all the appliances, a wonderful invention, made our life much easier. But somebody forgot to tell our DNA and our evolution. So we need to do certain amount of physical work. And that is where the asana became popular. In the beginning, to resolve this problem, we started going to the gym, aerobics, all of this thing came to artificially work out our body, because we need certain amount of working out. But because of this new kind of life, all of that was missing. And that is where the asana part became way more relevant, because it's not just physical exercise, it has a way more benefit.
So that was the impact in our bodies in the last 20 years. But what do you think that was the impact in our minds?
So the first problem where the yoga became popular was to give our body the workout, and it had more benefit. But what happened in last 20 years is something very different and way more challenging, and that is impacting our mind. If you really look, the way our body was not designed to remain still, our body is designed for like being active and certain amount of workout. Same way, our brain is also not designed for a lot of things. So one thing is that, think about that we are human being, but what we became now in last 20 years is we became a human doing. We are all the time doing. Our brain is not designed to remain active and engage all through the day. But all of a sudden now, we are all the time engaged. Our brain is not designed to make so many decisions. But the moment we wake up, look at the phone, so many things to think about and decide. Getting into the wardrobe, big decision. The coffee shop, big decision. Most of the job requires a lot of decision making. Ordering a lunch online is a lot of decisions. Then buying anything online is also a lot of decisions. So two things. One is that our mind is engaged all the time. It is making so many decisions. It is not designed to do all this thing. Earlier, if you really see that we were always, throughout our evolution, or even like till very recent history, lot of this time we were doing kind of nothing. We were just sitting, waiting for the rain to finish. And we were okay being in that state. But now, even if it is like 3 minutes before the metro or subway is about to come, we cannot just be with ourselves. We have to like really engage with the phone or start reading something on the billboard. So this is not natural from our brain and mind perspective. And it is impacting us in many, many ways.
So, in your opinion, are we more connected than ever? Because nowadays we use a lot of this word, right? Connection for everything. So are we more connected than ever, or are we more disconnected from ourselves?
Yes, very important point. We are artificially connected, but we are being disconnected with our real self. So we are outwardly thinking that we are connected, and more we are disconnecting with our true self. And this is already like a lot of stress in the life, a lot of loneliness, then all the time being engaged is shortening our attention span. So all the new generation of ADHD, not able to focus, all of this are the new problems, which was not there because we were okay being with ourselves. And now we are like thinking that we are connected, but we start being disconnected with ourselves.
And are we happier right now? Because all of these things came to help us. So also to bring us happiness. Do you think that we are happier right now?
Okay, this is more deeper fundamental problem. See, the technology was supposed to make life easy, but it made the life complicated. So if you really look, is that all of this thing, not only we are disconnected with our true self, it has two problems in broad way. One is that we are social animal. We are supposed to be part of community, the real connection, the belonging. All of this thing is falling apart because of the technology. It becoming more lonely. And the second part is what I was just discussing, is start using the mind and the brain it is not designed to. And there are consequences always. So earlier when we stopped using the body, the consequences were not that bad, and we kind of solved that problem more or less. The earlier consequences was that, like, life became much easier with not much work to be done. So all of a sudden we got the problem with the weight problem, the heart problem, blood pressure problem, all of this. And then we understood that problem. Slowly we figured out different way of being physically active. And that's where the asana part became very popular. And we became very conscious about what kind of food we are consuming. We start looking at the label, how much calorie, how much sugar, and the amount of food we are using. All of this thing slowly became part of our life. So now where we are is the problem with the mind and the brain. Just like when we are buying food, we look at the label, what kind of things we are consuming. We are not that conscious that what we are putting in our mind. The amount of information, the kind of information we are putting we are not at all conscious, which is way more important. Just like we are so conscious about body, working out with the body, we are not that conscious about the mind anymore. So this is where now the next part of the yoga is the asana pranayama was more from the body perspective, and it was also helping the mind.
Yoga can be our turning point in a way that, we practice asana, pranayama, but how do you think that yoga can really impact our lives, right?
So yoga is actually the path of meditation. From Patanjali perspective, the yoga is chitta vritti nirodha, which is little difficult to unpack, but let me make it more relevant. It's ultimately is the science of mind. It is going from mind to no mind state. But just like the asana pranayama was actually been designed in traditional way so that we can sit in meditation. But then it became way more relevant in the current life. The same way the meditation part. Now that is what is dealing with the mind. And that is what is more important for us now than ever. because we are all the time engaged. We have forgotten how to just be. So if you really see that, just like the yoga world start getting associated with a lot of things, everywhere it became yoga. The same way, the first thing we are doing right now, especially in last post-iPhone time, is that a lot of these things that are relaxation technique. Okay, and then we start associating the word meditation with that, and it became very relevant. We kind of forgot to do one thing at a time. We are all the time multitasking, we are all the time stuck in our mind. So now, think about that any kind of guided meditation, yoga nidra, or sound healing, for example. It becoming very popular. Why? Because we lost the ability to not do anything and just be with ourselves, so we now need a support. And that support is that, okay, you go to a place with a sound healing and you just be. You are, first of all, away from the digital world. Second thing is that you are only doing one thing now, which was normally natural, Doing one thing at a time or doing nothing was okay for us. That's how we are designed for. So it became like a great experience that I'm just doing nothing and just listening to the sound. And we start associating the word meditation, which is a good relaxation technique because we are living in this kind of world. Or any kind of guided technique where something is making us relax.
So you think that what came to make our life easier just complicated our life in a way that now we need techniques, we need guidance just to be with ourselves?
Yes, definitely. So all of this relaxation technique, so first thing is that we already start like going for all this kind of different relaxation technique. And we kind of start associating the word meditation with that. The walking meditation and being mindful. Mm-hmm. So this is what is getting us away from this multitasking, all the time engaged, decision making, this little crazy world all the time. Mm-hmm. So for a while, this is our break from that. But if you really look from Patanjali's perspective or from traditional perspective, what is meditation? And to explain that, let me think it's like what is there in the mind. Okay, so the thought in the mind was always there. Okay, it's not a new problem, or it's always there. Since we wake up till we go to sleep, our mind is all the time thinking. So let's say there is one thing is the thought. Then other thing is that, to simply put it, is that there is something that engage with this thought, create this internal dialogue. And the more intense this dialogue, the more restless we feel, more we are disconnected from the present moment. So think like in the mind, thoughts are always there, but then there is engagement happening with the thought. These two things are there, and on top of that, if you really see, there is also something that is always witnessing this. So even like, imagine it's late in the night and restless in the bed. So obviously there are a lot of thoughts. The volume of the thought is also loud and they are rushing. The frequency is also fast. On top of that, there is this intense engagement with the thought. Agreeing, disagreeing, arguing with the thought. Okay, that makes it restlessness. When this engagement little bit calms down, the thoughts are there, but there is nobody really engaging with the thought. Then the life is more or less at ease. And that's how we can able to go to sleep. Now, from a Western perspective, like the famous philosopher Descartes says that, I think that is why I am. This whole idea, obsession with the thought and the mind. From the Eastern perspective, no, the one that is thinking is not really you. And to understand that, think about any time when you are in this aha moment, or when you are like really in a awe. Like you climb a mountain and you see this nice view with the fall color, it's really beautiful. For a while, our mind goes to little stillness. We are in the present moment. We are looking things as it is. And how you feel at that time? Really alive. Some kind of blissfulness from inside. And if you really notice, for a while there are no thoughts. Maybe there are thoughts, but it is so much in the background, we are not engaging with at all. So this is one place where you can see the mind was little bit in the stillness. When mind in the stillness and there are no thoughts, actually that is the time I felt the most alive. That is the time this whole idea that the real happiness is inside of me. Okay, that's the one experience where we really feel that. And then what happens? Immediately a thought comes. A thought comes of, let me take a picture, or do I have enough water? Something like a thought pops up in the mind. And then we engage with that thought. The moment we engage with that thought, it takes us into further action. So immediately we are now not in the present moment. The activity in the mind started. And then that blissful experience is now of a past. So what it is saying is that when I am feeling most alive, when there is more stillness in the mind, so this thought and the engagement happening in the mind looks like something superimposed, keeping me into this restless, little miserable existence because of that. If the thoughts are there, I'm not engaging, I'm sitting there enjoying the sun, the thought comes, but if I don't engage, then I'm still okay. So the real me has to do something with when the thoughts are not there, or there's some kind of stillness. And to have a more comfortable, easy life, I should have some kind of handle over the amount of engagement and what to engage. So that is where really the meditation, the traditional meditation part comes into picture. So what I'm explaining, we can also see that, think about the mind is something which is all the time fluctuating. With each fluctuation or modification, it brings new thought. It comes with some kind of memory, and then some engagement happens. Depending upon this engagement, our emotional state and the feeling change. Then another modification or fluctuation happens. With that, another thought, another memory, another kind of engagement, and then little change in this emotional state. And we keep going through this all day long. So that's how the Patanjali looks at it. What is the nature of the mind? The nature of the mind is this constant modification or fluctuation. And when this modification or fluctuation ceases or stops, that is really the yoga from Patanjali's traditional definition of yoga. So literally, if you see, the end point or the promised land from the definition of yoga is when I go from the mind to no mind state, or when I have the stillness. And when I have the stillness, the true happiness, my true nature is of infinite bliss. That is where we are in touch with that. But our mind is all the time fluctuating. So the whole yoga science, is ultimate goal is to reach there. So now look at it like how practically it can be useful. If the path is to reach there, so the first normal practical question comes for a lot of students is that, can I at least have some kind of handle over the engagement? So going back to the current problem, like come back from the work. Okay, now the work is done, but we are carrying the work all the time. Because the thought about the work comes, or we kind of became this whole idea of very anxious generation. Why? Because the thought of this future worry that comes in the mind, and then we engage with it. We know that this is not the time right now to think about it, okay, this is unnecessary thinking, or something from the past keep coming back. And we know that there is no point engaging with this. But still, we don't have any control or handle over this engagement, what to engage with and what not to engage with. Or minimum, this whole idea of I'm not able to let go. If you really see, not able to let go is what? My inability to stop chewing on the same thing.
So we are reacting over and over again to our thoughts instead of observing them and let them flow.
So, yes, to observe that also, okay, you can tell yourself, okay, I just need to observe and not engage with it. But then what happens? In few seconds, we start engaging with it.
So what should we do?
Okay, that is where the before meditation is the most important step, is the concentration. And the meditation automatically happens, the whole training from a traditional perspective, be it from the Buddha's meditation path or Patanjali's meditation path or any ancient meditation path, it starts with developing some kind of one-pointed concentration. When we train our mind to remain focused on one object and then achieves some kind of effortless one-pointed concentration, then the meditation happens automatically. But when we start training ourselves, why this is more relevant for now is that, see, the problem is that we are not able to be focused. Okay, we are not able to be with ourselves. So in the beginning, when you sit down and start training yourself for this one-pointed concentration, what is going to happen? Just for few seconds, not even a minute, in few seconds, we are focusing. Like the best place to focus is we have the breath all the time with us. And the place to focus is the place where the breath is entering and exiting. So let's say focusing on this part. So you sit down, close your eyes and focus on the awareness of the breath going inside and coming outside. Few seconds, and then what happens? There are thoughts all the time in the mind, and then we start engaging with the thought. But then the instruction is that every time you find yourself not focused or your mind is wandering, bring it back. And then again it will go. Then we bring it back. Again it will go. We bring it back. So what actually we are doing in the beginning part of this? We are training our mind to do what is supposed to be done. Here, in this case, is to remain focused on the object of concentration or meditation, that is breath. And slowly, it is like, think about from an analogy perspective, the mind is like a wild horse. Like everything I have is absolutely in my control. If I tell my hand to go up, it will go up. If I tell my hand to go down, it will go down. If I want to move my thumb, it will move, right? If, let's say that just once an hour, if my hand goes up and down without I wanting it to be like that, that would be really strange. I would immediately go to a doctor that, okay, there is something wrong. What is wrong is that my hand is behaving on its own just once every hour. And we'll go through a lot of scans and try to figure out what is wrong. But think about the most important part is our mind. And now look at it. It is going whichever direction it wants to go. If I tell my mind, like I normally in the class I say, okay, close your eyes and do anything you like, but don't think about monkey, just for 1 minute. And my mind will not do that. Or think about when you want to buy a ticket or book a room, and on your laptop you have a lot of tabs open, and really it is important. So even in that time, our mind is focused about booking that for how long? For a little bit, and then something else comes in the mind and we start engaging with it. So isn't it that the most important thing is to have some kind of handle, train our mind to do what is needed to be done or not do what is harmful to us. So this whole idea that things happens in the life and then we create a story around it and then we keep chewing on that story. And then we also understand that this story is limiting, this story is problem. Then we read books, watch videos, go to therapist, and then understand that I need to replace this story with, this is a limiting story, I need to replace this story with the story of abundance or the story of good possibility. Even after knowing all of this thing, where is the problem? The problem is that I don't have the ability to tell my mind to let go of this story and replace with this story. So finding the problem and the solution is not that much of a difficult part. The most difficult part is implementing it. Let go of this. Means what? Ultimately we are saying the mind that okay, this kind of engagement is not good for me. Let's replace with another kind of engagement or let go of this engagement. So think about when we sit down and train ourselves to remain focused on one point. What initial thing we are doing is that mind wants to think, mind wants us to engage with those thoughts, mind wants to move. There is a little itch. So mind wants to go and do something about that itch. But the instruction is that, no, I'm going to remain focused on this one place. So mind like a wild horse, it is going all over the place, has no control and taking us to whichever direction it wants. And how we train the wild horse? First of all, we need to get onto it. That is, the first part is to ability to sit properly and be with ourselves. And that is where the asana and pranayama really helps. Prepare us to be able to sit. Preparing the body to remain still is where the asana. And then preparing our prana and mind to be a little calm, to be in sync, to sit for that. And then once we sit, then the way we train the horse is we're going to make the horse go in the same circle. It will go for a few steps and then it will stop, or it will try to go in a different direction. Then we again take it back into the same direction. That is what is the beginning part of the traditional meditation. Starts with creating some kind of one-pointed focus. And along with that, few things happen. First thing is that we learn how to be with ourselves. It is doing one thing at a time. Then training our mind to do what is supposed to be done. Remain focused on this object of concentration or meditation. That is the breath in this example. And mind will still do its trick, and every time we catch ourselves, the mind go wandering, we bring it back. And as you keep doing it, we start having some kind of control or handle over the mind. Even before we reach to this one-pointed concentration, yes, you are actually training your mind to do what it is supposed to be done.
So we are practicing concentration, not meditation actually, because meditation happens, right? Because normally we say, I'll practice meditation, but that's not totally true, right?
Yes, so from this perspective, all we are training is to be focused on this one point. And when that concentration becomes effortless, then automatically the meditation happens. So what we discussed so far is like in a way that actually from a current world perspective, there's two things. All this relaxation technique that we call meditation is it is something is really helping immediately, because I don't have the ability to be still also or do one thing at a time. And the life is very stressful, life is really busy. So in this life, something that helps me at least be with myself, do one thing at a time, and obviously like keeping us away from the digital world is good. It's a good relaxation. And it has an immediate benefit, it relaxes. Along with that, if you really see, now is the time where we really need to also focus on this traditional aspect, where slowly we train our mind to remain focused on one point. And when that becomes effortless, then the meditation happens automatically. Now another thing is that, look at it another way, is that in the beginning is, let's say the thoughts, a lot of time the thought can be a problem. Sometimes, let's say, wake up with some kind of thought from the past that brings like some traumatic or very bad memory from the past. And we, obviously, this kind of thing will make us engage with it. But then think about that, then it's time to go to work. And now it's an intense work, really busy. So for a while, this thought, this memory that started in the morning is still there, but it is in the background because I am fully engaged with the work. So I don't have a bandwidth to engage with this. It still might be there in the background. Then comes the lunch break. So now again, there is no work, there is empty time. And then it is already in the background, and then we start engaging with it. And it spoils the lunch. But then again, the work is there. So now I'm so absorbed in the work, so I don't have a bandwidth to engage with that. Now think about the same thing is that when you are sitting and focusing, if you are fully alert and attentive to the breath, or fully focused on the object of concentration, then you don't have a bandwidth to engage with the thought. The thought will come, but there is nobody to listen, agree, disagree, argue, or engage with the thought. Because if you are focused in one place, then the thought comes and goes away. So another thing is that I'm training my mind in a way that I don't have much control over the thought and what kind of thought gonna come. But where I have a control is that, can I remain engaged in what I'm supposed to be engaged? If I can train myself doing that, then this thought will come. Okay, we will recognize that. Maybe we'll engage with a little bit. But then if I let it go and remain focused, then it is not a problem. So this past and future, the problem of not able to let go and the past trauma and being depressed or being anxious about the future. Ultimately the mechanism is what? The mechanism is that either the past thought or the future thought coming, and I start engaging with it, and then it creates the sadness or it creates the anxiety. Even after knowing that this is creating it, we don't have the ability to disengage from that or put our focus somewhere else. And that is what the initial benefit comes from training the mind. That can I develop an ability to remain focused on one point? Then this will help in a normal life in a way.
So that is your advice, or which are the small steps that you can give to someone that wants to implement this ancient philosophy, wants to implement yoga in their daily lives, to impact the health of their own minds?
Yes. So just the way we became very conscious about what we are putting in our body, keeping our body active, exercise, train our body, the same way now is the time with this It's the beginning. I mean, actually, the way the technology is going with the AI and where we are leading right now, it's actually going against the way our mind and brain is designed. So one of the most important solution is to learn how to be with myself and slowly train my mind. First, the ability to engage, disengage. And then finally, when you remain engaged on this one point, the background thought volume and the frequency will start going down. And then you really feel what this says is that the peace is inside, the happiness is inside. That will start coming. So yes, we need asana and pranayama from the body, prana and some kind of quieting the mind. And then obviously in a really busy world, now it's the time to use also some kind of relaxation technique which gives immediate benefit. Mm-hmm. But the ultimate solution, where they say the meditation finally rewires your brain, it creates the new neuron pathway. Mm-hmm. Like absolutely the whole anatomy of the brain can be changed with the mind. From that perspective now it's a very high time where everybody really needs to go for the traditional way of meditation, which starts with slowly training our mind to remain focused on one point.
So, do you have one last advice, one last tip that the students, the people that are watching us can follow from today on?
Yes. So, the most important part in this world is now to train our mind in this traditional technique of meditation, which starts with some ability to remain focused on one point. So start with that. It's going to be a little difficult, but you have to slowly train your mind, have patience, and play this long game.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.